So I'm back from my second trip of the summer. This trip was to the southeast. Now the good news is I am back and I am safe at home and my garden looks incredible. I just wanted to give you some heads up about what's coming up, what I'm going to be working on, where I've been, and just kind of get you excited about what's going to be taking place on my channel. The bad news is I hurt my leg on my Europe trip, and it hasn't gotten better, so it's going to be really hard to kind of get into the garden and get things done. And also I came home and Lyndon, my cat, has no hair on the side of her leg and she won't jump up on the bed, so I've got to get to the vet today. And also I left on June 30th with a very large leak under my refrigerator in the kitchen. So there are some things that I just absolutely have to get on top of, but I wanted to tell you about my trip. The Europe trip was all about seeing gardens and gardeners and late bloomer fans. And the southeast trip, after I was home for 10 days, I went on my southeast trip, and that was bookended with family. So we started off with a family reunion of immediate family on July the 2nd, and then I flew to Pensacola, where I met an old college friend who really wanted to assist me, and we went to Mobile, Alabama, where I met my ardent late bloomer fan, Pat Smith. And I really wanted to go down to the Deep South and assist Pat Smith to get her cookbook off the ground. She's been wanting to do a cookbook for a long time. It could really help her financially. She has a disabled child and 2 other children and only a part-time job because she has to care for her son. And a cookbook could really bring in some additional earnings to the family household. And I wanted to be able to try to help her get that going. And Linda, my friend from college, was eager to give me a hand and be my chauffeur. From there I went to Charleston and got to see a couple of old friends, and we toured the downtown historic area, and I went to the farmers market, so I'm going to have a great video on that. From there I rented a car and I drove to Wilmington, North Carolina, where I spent the night, met a new friend, and then in the morning drove out to Curry, North Carolina, and got to meet Lizzie Lou, well, Elizabeth. They call it Lizzie Lou's Family Farm, and Elizabeth just had twin girls 5 months ago, and her farm is beautiful, and I can't wait to bring you that story. Such a lovely lady and mom, and the girls are adorable. And from there I went to Columbia, South Carolina, got into a massive rainstorm trying to get to Tori at Permaculture Homestead. Stayed a couple of nights with Tori and his lovely wife Erin. They have a fabulous backyard permaculture homestead. Well, you've seen it if you've watched his channel. Please do. And can't wait to bring you that video. From there I drove to Hiram, Georgia, where I stayed with a new friend of mine, Amy, and saw her 2 beautiful daughters and husband, and we toured, let's see, it was called the Green Meadows Reserve Community Garden, and I was so excited. It was the most beautiful community garden I've ever seen, and the people I met were so enthusiastic. Can't wait to bring you that story. Then from there I drove to Decatur, Tennessee, and revisited someone that I filmed an episode of Late Bloomer with in 2013 called Living Sustainably in Tennessee, and we canned small batch tomato sauce. That will be a separate video. Can't wait to bring you that. And the same day I drove back down to Alabama and got to see for the second time my good friend Charles at Old Alabama Gardener channel. Make sure you check out Charles. He's such a great how-to guy. His videos are straightforward and he knows how to do everything, unlike me. And from there I went back home. Spent some time with my mother. That was very challenging and difficult and hard because my mother is, she doesn't have great eyesight, and so she is not reading, and she's concerned about maybe going into assisted living. And so I was there to kind of pare down her possessions in her apartment and reassure her, and I worked very, very hard, and my knee is really sore. One of those possessions is this hat, which my mother had on her wall for at least 10 years in her apartment. And she said, "Kay, why don't you take that hat and wear it? I bet that'd look good on you." So I did. It was incredibly hot in the South. Oh my goodness, Mobile, there's no description of how hot it is down there. Well, it was hot everywhere. And I'm so lucky here to have less humidity. But we have mosquitoes. And there's a mosquito on my microphone right there. I see it. I got stung by a wasp actually in Decatur, Tennessee. I think you'll kind of see that because I was filming. I had not been stung by a wasp or a bee since I was a child. For 5 years in this garden, I have never been stung. And you know how cramped this garden is, and there are bees everywhere. I made that wasp mad, and it nailed me. The bad news is I accidentally deleted my Filmic Pro app off of my iPhone, where I had shot 34 gigabytes of data. And if you shoot video, you know that's a lot of material. And it was from Europe and from the Southeast, and I don't know what else. But fortunately, every main place I visited, I shot the main part of the video on my camera. The way I plan to roll this out, because I've got so much material, is I think what I'll do is pick up where I left off in Rugby, England. My next video, I'm going to work on that today, and as soon as I can, I'm going to pick up that first video in Mobile, and I'm going to kind of do the trips simultaneously, one and one and one and one. Meanwhile, I also want to do a video comparing how my garden looked when I left and how it looks right now. As you can see, I came home to lots of tomatoes. These need to be eaten right away. And fortunately, I had Eric here once a week looking in on my garden, which was all planted when I left. Now, some of my wonderful flowers that I planted before I left have bloomed, and I can't wait to show you that. I just want to thank you so much for all your support and your interest in what I do. I am so inspired, and I hope I can inspire you by bringing you all these wonderful gardens and wonderful people. I'm working very hard to try to inspire as many people as I can, and I need your support. So please share, and thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. What do you think? New late bloomer hat?